Hello and welcome to episode 84 of the Cutie Art Crusaders for February 11th, 2014. My name is Rainbow Plasma, I'm the organizer and this week's editor, and today I'm joined by...
Brony, I coordinate special guests.
I'm FunnyGuy217, I organize social media stuff.
I'm Atlas Spark, I do the rest.
It's true, he does everything.
There's not much left to do.
Aw.
So, Bernd.
Yes.
You are the special guest guy,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Are you? Because we've gotten emails from people saying you should do this special guest, but I guess we haven't had one in a while, so...
Well, we get a few emails saying you should get this special guest, and it's not really the kind of level of artist that we're looking to feature and or highlight on our show. It's usually the occasional, like, startup fan, like novice fan artist who's like, I would like to be on Pony Show, please.
Aw.
And then I don't know, have a respectful way to reply to that. So we usually don't.
Well, I usually find that we do these kind of things in bursts. If you look back at our record, it's been about 4 months since we've had the last guest. But when you look back at that kind of streak, you go back you have Leakfish, Celebi Yoshi, Gray Stripe, and then there was a little gap, and then there was the Nanook, and then BronyCon that had the extra thing with Mahower, and then My Little Investigations was there, and then the Children of the Night Part 2, and then there's a gap again, and then you get Jai and a Trill. So yeah. I think you'll find that we do these things in kind of bursts, and it generally relates to probably when Bernd's like, I want to do guests again, so he gets 8.
Well, it also equates to when I have lots of time to do things. Mm-hmm. So it's been my most recent busy quarters in school. Semesters rather.
Yeah.
And that's honestly why I haven't been asking anyone, because normally when I try to coordinate guests, I make sure to come home every night and check to see if they've replied or whatever, and make sure to reply to them and give people time for that. But I don't have time for that. I get off of work, I come home, I sleep. I don't do anything in the middle of the week. Yeah. I don't have time to.
Yeah, and it's like I said, if you're going to invite guests, you're not going to just send a message to one person. You're going to be like, all right, it's time for a guest. Let's message 8 people, because 7 of them probably aren't going to make it. So you'll message a bunch of people, and then 4 of them will come back and say yes. And it's like, okay, well,
yeah,
we have 4 guests. So, and you're the only one who does it too.
Also, in all fairness, I have asked quite a few artists. I've asked actually about 3 artists to come on our show, and those 3 artists since our last haven't been comfortable coming on our show for X or Y reason, and have declined. So there's also that.
Yeah.
It's not that I haven't been trying.
Yeah.
Right. It's fair enough.
Fair enough. I also think that going in bursts is kind of nice, because we tend to mix it up a bit, and it's not theme guest on and off. It's you have themes, and then you get the occasional guest, and then you'll have the guest the next week. I don't know. I
feel like we should have a burst of guests soon, but first I'd like to know an artist that I really like to have on the show. And it's what, this artist, I've seen their work, I'd really like to have them on the show, highlight and feature them. That hasn't happened in a little while for me. That's what used to happen way back when we first started up. That's why we had so many artists at once, because I was going to conventions, I was seeing artists, I was meeting artists, I was talking to artists. So I just wanted to have them on the show nonstop. But since convention season's kind of over, I just haven't had that really want to just I need this person on the show, need to invite them, whatever.
Yeah. Very, very true. And I've also heard...
you guys haven't come to me either and been like, hey, I really like to have this person on the show.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. We've also found, I've had people come to me personally, and talk to me about the fact that they enjoy our themed episodes a little bit more. And we did a poll, semi-recently, I guess back in November, so it's not really recently, but back in November we did a poll, and people seemed to say that by a little margin they enjoyed our theme episodes more. So in case people were wondering, that's why we haven't had guests on the show recently. But honestly, I'm not I don't think it's anything to worry about.
I don't want to say that's the reason. I just want to say that's maybe why you guys haven't pressured me to get more guests recently, is because people seem to be enjoying what they're seeing.
Yeah.
Well,
and you've been
But also,
busy
that being said,
stuff, so.
a majority of the viewers that came to our show and started watching our show was because of posts from artists that we featured in their Deviant gallery or Deviant journal or whatever. A lot of our really big fans that I've talked to personally have said that, oh, I saw Pixel Kitty's poster, I saw Egophiliac or whatever, like posting, I was like, oh, I'm gonna go check this show out, whatnot.
Yeah.
White Diamonds, I think, got us a lot of viewers.
Yeah.
It's a weird balance, right? Because I think that the artists' interviews can be really good for new people, but sometimes it's a little bit, I don't know, it might drag on for the existing people, whereas the themes might be a little bit. It's on a personal basis, but yeah, that's kind of where we've been at for the special guests, because I've gotten a couple questions about that.
Yeah, there should be a mixture, and we'll have some guests on soon.
Yay. Cool. So while we're recording this, I guess the opening ceremony of the Olympics is going on, or soon-ish, or it already happened.
It's already happened.
I don't know.
Didn't it happen like yesterday?
Maybe.
It already happened.
It was 3 o'clock in the morning for me.
They're doing it all out of order. They started like with events like a couple of days ago and stuff. I don't know. But Olympics, that's cool.
Yeah.
I quite enjoy watching the Olympics. Okay, well, some of the sports like I wouldn't go out of my way to sit there and watch, but if the Olympics is on, I'll sit there and watch them because it's like big international competition.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's the thing, though, right? Because, like, I would do that. The only reason why I really watch the Olympics is because it's, like, on somewhere. So, like, I'll probably see it around, like, my campus or something. But, like, I don't have cable. So, like, because I'm not, like, seeking it out, I'm probably not going to see a lot of it. Honestly, like, I think the Olympics is really cool. And if I had, like, more time / on in the background kind of thing, I would watch it more. But I just, I'm a busy guy. And honestly, the last time I watched the Olympics a lot was probably just because it was in my country. So, like, it was cool to see that kind of stuff being held in my country.
Right.
Especially with, like, the us doing so well last Winter Olympics and the whole hockey thing.
So,
that was a big thing. I'll be watching the hockey stuff, but other than that,
So can you only get it on cable in your country?
What do you mean?
Like, can you only watch it on cable?
There's not really...
No, I can watch it. I don't have TV, any TV.
Okay.
In my apartment, I don't have, like, I have a TV, but it's not hooked up to a single wire.
You might be able to get over the air.
That's what I'm
broadcast,
because here it's available on free to air. It's not available on anything else.
I also don't use that TV.
Yeah.
I sit at my computer. I have no reason to.
Yeah.
I don't watch TV. I don't turn on my TV. So
Yeah. I'm gonna try and catch some of the games. I really enjoy like the skiing or skating events. I don't know. I kind of like faster paced stuff, so I tend to enjoy the X Games more because they're amazing.
right.
But the Olympics is fun, and I've watched them for the past I guess few times that they've happened. So yeah.
Go Canada. This is our Olympics.
Yeah.
Summer Olympics. Nah, don't talk about it. All right. Well, I just wanted to give a quick shout out because Mr. Mahauer, who's been on the podcast, has turned a year older.
Yay.
And I don't know. I figured people might be interested because he seems to be making appearances on here semi-regularly. So there you go.
Happy birthday! Happy birthday, man!
Happy birthday, Mahauer. I didn't get you anything.
Don't expect anything from us. But no.
I chose the color of your
happy
socks.
birthday.
That's what you get from me.
I showed you a great time at BronyCon.
It's true.
Hey, now.
I'm just going to use that as a cop-out so I don't have to make him a vector.
I drove you to and from BronyCon. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll see him. We'll see him at BronyCon. Well, everybody except for Atmos Park, but the rest of us will see him at BronyCon. So
Atmos Park's going to Skype us, and we'll walk around with a laptop.
Yeah, FaceTime
The
them.
whole con.
I'll get an iPad especially for it.
all right. Well, you guys have fun with that. I'm not going to do that. But
I'll buy him
Yeah.
a drink at BronyCon or something.
I'll let you guys handle that.
Anyhow, we should move on to the art. Our theme for this week is Cloudsdale, which was so lovely chosen by a certain Rainbow Plasma during our Spoilercast last week. So thank you for doing that.
Rainbow Plasma.
Oh, yeah.
You're our
Yeah. I wasn't feeling the spoiler cast last week, so I chose. Well, we've been talking about it since the episode that we did Castles, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
Because around that time, we were looking at like big landscapey kind of pieces, and so we were looking it up, and we decided on Castles. And there was one art piece in particular in this group of 4 that we were looking at, and we're like, oh, we really want to feature this one. So Cloudsdale lends itself to some pretty spectacular skyboxes and some great landscape art. So it managed to come together in some really awesome pieces today.
Yep. So our first piece is called Cloudsdale Sketch by Carzani. And this is a fairly, I don't want to say minimalist, but it kind of is. It's a very impressionistic kind of piece. Very sketchy, obviously Cloudsdale sketch. And,
yeah, I think in general, what might be better to kind of sum it all up is there's a lot of things that are implied in this piece.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's not super detailed, but at the same time, it is in its own little way, right? Because there are a lot of different shades and colors and techniques in terms of brushwork and stuff like that. So it's not like it's not detailed, but the scenery isn't detailed.
Yeah.
Right? If that makes any sense.
Yeah.
The whole thing isn't really detailed. Like, I wouldn't call the fact that there's, like, you can see the individual strokes, I wouldn't really call that detailed. That's just how the style of it. But I would say the whole thing is, like, not detailed at all, not just the background.
But I would say that doesn't necessarily mean there isn't detail put into it.
Well, no, I mean, I guess the whole...
What is definition of detail?
The whole...
Bernd, do you get what I'm saying at least?
I get what you're saying, and I think you're correct.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I also think that Pinky Dash is correct. But it's also like, what do we define as detail?
Yeah.
Right.
Like, I think the important thing to say is that there's detail in the places that matter,
Mhm.
but it is very not detailed in that there's just flat planes of color, but there's a lot of care or detail, if you will, put into their what's that word for shadow? Silhouette.
Mhm.
So their silhouette is really well defined, and we can tell, obviously, yes, that is a column. Yes, that is Fluttershy and Rainbow Dash. And yes, those are floating cloud building like things in the background. And so there, it's detailed enough to where we can tell that, but it's also, it lacks an extreme amount of detail in that nothing has, you know, finer elements of shading or finer elements of blah, blah, blah thing that you would make a more advanced art piece with, because it's just a flat plane of color on more shades and tints of planes of other shades of blue and green and stuff.
Yeah, it's interesting to think of like all of the things in this piece that are darker as silhouettes, because I think that kind of makes it so that you kind of see the bigger picture. Because when you take a step back and you take it all in as one big piece, like things kind of start to make sense or come together. Like a lot of impressionistic pieces or expressionistic pieces, but
yeah, I think one of the coolest things. So I mean, the values in this piece and the different changes in the colors help give a sense of depth in it. You know, the darkers tend to come forward because we see that silhouette at the front, and then the lighter stuff in the back, especially with the sun there, kind of fade into the background. Something cool that I thought, because you mentioned, you know, if you step back a little bit. So what I did was I zoomed out on the entire page, and when you get it zoomed out to about 25% of the size, it's amazing how 3D it looks compared to its bigger version. I mean, this happens a lot when you scale pieces down. It's a great technique to use to kind of look at the piece overall, but it was an interesting little thing that the value really gets more important as the piece gets smaller.
Yeah. So that whole concept of like atmospheric perspective, or when we talk about, you know, things that are kind of in the foreground, some seem to be darker because they cast a harder shadow. It's kind of that kind of concept where as things step back or recede, they get a little bit more desaturated and a little bit lighter. And Carzani has taken the time to make sure that he does that, and that those colors are a little bit more softer as they, you know, things that he wants you to see as receding or farther away, you know?
yeah. Well, speaking of colors, it's a very interesting choice of colors that Carzani used in this piece, because there's mostly blues, especially in the clouds and stuff, but you can see some violets, some purples, and also some greens, which kind of gives it that distinction, and it kind of adds
analogous.
Yeah, it is a fairly analogous piece, but like there is a little bit of distinction of colors to kind of give it that more 3D feel if you're zoomed out, or to kind of give it more depth.
And as you zoom out, it also sort of looks like a lens flare as well. Yeah, in front of the characters, it's especially obvious when not so much when you're looking at it in full size. When you zoom out, you can see it. Those colors that overlay, the greens and the violets, sort of give that effect.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I see what you're saying when I zoom out now, how that he did incorporate a little bit of green and blues into the top of the character, which reflects the hues that the kind of sun is making.
Yeah.
And it sort of does look like almost like a lens flare. But when you zoom out, you can kind of tell, like, oh, that white sphere there is supposed to be like said sun behind cloud-like things.
Yeah. It's really interesting because, I mean, I think it's very easy to look at this piece at first and look at the colors and be like, wow, this is monochromatic with its blues.
Yeah, but it's
there's
not
a lot
really.
more subtle stuff going on there, and I think that, you've got an addition of a very bright yellow, which then kind of, artificially transitions to this green. It goes through the shift from yellow to blue and has this really interesting kind of gradient where there's a green in the middle there, which is really interesting because I mentioned previously that green is a color that is really cool because it can, well, I guess cool is the wrong word. Green is an awesome color.
Interesting.
because it can
cool.
It can really
Super
swing
green.
between warm and cool color very easily depending on its surroundings. And here it's used as a warm color, and it's a very, very warm green, and it gives this sense that the sun is shining down and pushing through this cooler blue, especially
violet.
onto the pony itself.
Yeah.
Violet and green are both those kind of colors that can transition whether they want to be cool or warm.
Yeah. And it's interesting because if you recall back to our color episode, there's kind of a difference between lighting and shadow, and that is that one should be normally cool and one should normally be warm. You can kind of get the feeling from this piece that there is that kind of cool and warm transition on the shadow, although because it is all silhouettes, it's not really that prevalent.
Well, I think it's prevalent, and I think it's important to point out that when we talk about one shadow being like, if the light is warm, then the shadow should be cool, and vice versa. Again, like, don't just take the straight up 3 cool colors, 3 warm colors. Because we've got a warm green leading to a cooler purple.
Yeah.
Those are both traditionally cool colors, right?
Yeah.
But you can see how they make a difference with context and with just general feel of the piece.
Yeah. Cool.
Also, Carzani was one of the artists at BronyCon that drew on my playmat,
Mm-hmm.
and he's received super cool.
Yeah.
No, he was really nice to meet at BronyCon. He was super nice, and he was pumped to like make a little sketch on my playmat and stuff.
Yeah.
Hashtag humble brag.
Sharing a table with Doi and one other artist. I forget his name. I have to go back and look.
Yeah, I can't remember.
Just one
But-
quick thing before we move on this one. I love the way that Carzani's used the negative space on those 2 characters down the bottom. Well, it's not really negative space, but the way that he's made those silhouettes, but it's so minimalistic, but you can still tell which character is which. Like, you can tell that's Rainbow Dash and Fluttershy. Partly because of the fact that they're in Cloudsdale. The other part is that even with that little teeny bit of her hair down the bottom there, that curl, and the fact that they've both got wings and Dash's hair, you can tell really easily that they're that character without going into detail.
Yeah.
I didn't make that connection.
Well, you're just terrible.
I
You
just
call
figured it
yourself
could
an
be.
odd guy.
Yeah.
There's important visual characteristics which we can easily recognize, and something important about silhouettes is silhouettes are something that they're things that are very, very easily visually recognized, because silhouettes of things, whether it's people or ponies in this case, because you have Fluttershy's curl and then Rainbow Dash's mane, which also looks like Gilda's mane in this case, but I'm not nitpicking.
Yeah. Well, it's something that we've talked about before with like pattern recognition in the brain, and art really kind of reflects the brain's ability to kind of visually process things. And so like a really good artist who's doing a very minimalistic style or sketchy style like this can throw those like little things, little patterns in, and your mind will pick up these things and say, oh, that's got wings and a hair flip, that's Fluttershy, or that's it's really cool. And it's interesting how art kind of reflects the whole natural process of the brain.
Yeah, pretty much silhouettes are all like kind of negative space. You said that, but you retracted it, Atmo. And no, that's a good point. Like silhouettes basically are the exact thing it plays with what is negative space. Like you have this area that is usually white or black or whichever. Which one is active? Which one is subject?
Yeah.
Anyway,
All right. So we got to move on to our next piece, which is called Welcome to Cloudsdale by Sayuri1314 or 1314.
I like this piece. It's pretty.
Yeah.
My pieces are out of order. Changed them like 8 times before we started.
Yeah. So this piece is much lighter and quite a bit more detailed, but it's still not really overly detailed.
Yeah.
Is it detailed? Because with all of the subjects in the picture, there's a lot less attention to detail in their said silhouette or said outline, but there's a lot more shading and color.
Yeah.
So who is more detailed?
Technically, 1 is greater than 0, Bernd.
Ooh.
Doesn't mean that it's really that close to 100. But yeah, I do agree. It still isn't detailed a lot. But I think this piece uses color again in an interesting way, but it's in a different way. The last one by Carzani was definitely more of a subtle, lighter kind of and a smoother transition. These ones are more, little tiny bursts of color, whether or not it be the rainbow falls or the ponies themselves that kind of pop out from the monochromatic scenery. But yeah, it's like more like pockets of these exciting colors that differ from the blue.
Mm-hmm.
I love it. Oh my gosh. Like, Scootaloo super pops because she's that complement of orange, so it's just like, you just see it.
Yeah.
It's like, look at the little pony, it's so cute.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely the thing that first grabs your attention, and from there you kind of transition upwards through Rainbow Dash and into the sky.
Yeah.
I love that, how bright that, like, the value is in the upper part of the piece in the sky, and how, like, the piece is kind of, like, compositionally positioned vertical. Like, it really gives this vastness, like grand feeling of just like looking upwards and like seeing kind of like the under portion of Rainbow Dash. She's like coming down as like this almost like dietic like figure.
Yeah,
I don't know. It's really cool.
Yeah, and there's also the aspect, this piece is entirely about flying, because every single thing in it, besides like what appears to be some sort of version of
Scootaloo's trying to fly.
except for the thing I believe in the background, lightning dust, probably, or another pony in the background. That green one in the Parthenon-like structure, isn't flying. But otherwise, everything else is about flying. It's in the sky. Obviously the main characters in this piece have both got their wings extended and things like that. And so having your eye start on Scootaloo and kind of like do this curvature upwards into the sky kind of, gives you that sense of starting on the ground and rushing upwards like flight.
Mm-hmm.
Diagonals.
Yay. Yeah, they're everywhere in this piece, which is amazing.
Yeah. And there's like, again, in this piece, there's that strong sense of diagonal when you have like Scootaloo in the bottom left and then Rainbow Dash in the bright white, and to like go to the other like area towards the right. It does create like a very strong diagonal sense that gives you upward motion, gives you movement, gives you the feeling of like power.
I just wanted to go back to the colors, because I think that what this artist has done in this piece is really kind of cool, in that the majority of the background of the piece is very analogous with this blue / turquoise / cyan kind of color to it. But then all of like the actual subjects of the piece, so like the ponies and the rainbows and stuff, are all like different colors. So like you were saying, Scootaloo pops out because she's the complement of the background, but you also have like the 3 ponies up top, which are green, orange, and yellow. And then you have like the pony in the structure there, and they all like kind of pop out from the background quite a bit. And it's interesting because Rainbow Dash is kind of a very similar color to the background, but this artist has given her the white outline, because obviously she's being shaded from the back, and also to kind of make her pop out a little bit from the background.
This is super cool.
Yeah.
I don't know why, but this piece really speaks to me. I mean, it maybe is like this really subjective way that I think I'm using subjective in the wrong way again. Maybe I am, but how undetailed the background is and how much it lacks detail, like, especially in like the upper left, you see like there's just 3 like slightly brighter in value squares, but we look at it and we create this like we create a more detailed environment. It's kind of that concept of when we were in our drawing episode way back in the day, and what we kept referencing, where you can add really detailed areas, and then your mind and your imagination will kind of fill in the areas around it. It's that there's areas in the background that are shaded in intelligent ways, with not like tons amount of care and detail and precision, but they're done in intelligent ways to where we see them and then we associate details with them. So like the background like column areas, there's how they're shaded with like bright white lines in the front of it, and then kind of this gradient of blue to slightly darker blue to dark blue. It creates this kind of we create this environment, and we create this like sense of lighting, and especially with the columns and that, you know, Greek-esque Parthenon, like if that's the right word, thing in the background with the little green pony. I think you said her name.
Lightning dust.
But
probably.
yeah, so and then so we look at that, and then we kind of see how detailed that is, and then apply that kind of structure to other things, and it really creates this almost a dream-like area in the background that we like in our minds are giving way more detail than is actually there. And like I look at this piece and I just really like it. I really enjoy it, how it's like shaded and how things have such a lack of detail. I don't know.
Yeah, there's definitely a cool aspect there. And I also like the fact that, like our previous piece, different, you know, lightness, or I guess value in this case, gives you a sense of depth in the piece. Again, we have the things at the bottom are dark and they appear to be forward, and then that light kind of pushes into the back. And then because we have those reference points, all right, here's front, here's back, our brain kind of interpolates the other shades and tries to fit them into that kind of pattern. And so we kind of create this world in our heads, and it's almost kind of cylindrical in a way, or conical, depending on how you look at it. Yeah,
that's interesting because if you combine that along with the fact that like the perspective of the buildings is kind of slanted, you really get this feeling of looking upwards through the clouds. So it's kind of cool.
Yeah, I was on that point. I was just going to say the composition of the space is really good, and the fact that it does that with the two main characters that, you know, you're not sort of made to look at, the two ponies down the bottom, Scootaloo and Rainbow Dash, and then as you sort of look up, it really gives you the sense of looking up into this thing because of the way that it's laid out. So the two main characters down the bottom, and then you're looking up, and then just while I was, you know, when I opened it up and I looked at it, it gave me that sense of looking up into the clouds to see this big Cloudsdale structure above us. So it does really well in that respect.
Yeah, everything's kind of towering over you. It's kind of cool. Yeah. All right, so we're going to move on to our next piece, which is called To Cloudsdale, commissioned by AJVL, otherwise known as Aaron JVL, who we featured quite a few times before, but his work is amazing. So,
hey JVL, we love you.
Yay! So this is a piece featuring Rainbow Dash and Fluttershy and a bunch of other ponies, and it looks like birds in the background. And there's some rainbows, and it's a lot more detailed in the background and in the characters than our previous two pieces. And I really like it.
Oh gosh, the painterly shading.
I know. I'm a big fan of the painterly style. It's so good.
Yeah, this piece really uses that sense of value scale of how it like steps back and like things recede. However, it also creates a super cool feeling that I really wanted to point out, in that the Canterlot in the background almost it does seem like it's in like a hole or a hovel or a cave, like a cave in the clouds almost. And that's created by how he uses color and how he uses that value scale that I was talking about. So we have obviously foreground being the darkest and like that really deep blue, and then it starts to step towards lighter blue, but then it moves towards cyan and it starts moving towards green on the color scale. And then you have that really highlighted area of cloud with kind of that creamy yellow green in that starts in the top left corner and kind of goes down to Fluttershy. And then on the right hand we have that looks like a giant like pillar of cloud almost, where the highlights of the sun hit, And then as they start to move around that, the highlights recede and start going back more to a cool, like, green blue that's different from the blue in the foreground. And it creates this big, like, vast cave sense of Cloudsdale, like, in the background there. And then as we keep moving back, colors, again, tend to keep receding and becoming more desaturated, creating that atmospheric perspective. Yeah, thank you. Sense. And it's super awesome. I really love the use of both color in this piece and also like how he uses value being the magical word and shading and the cloud-like painterly stuffs, because it is really like I don't know, like brushy and kind of messy and really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's a good point to clarify in that when we talk about atmospheric perspective occasionally, and I do this a lot, we talk about the fact that things get lighter as they go back, and that's not necessarily true. And I think it's a hard thing to pin down exactly, because I don't think there's one slider in Photoshop that would really, you know, be able to handle it properly. But in general, things do get lighter, but I don't think it's just because you turn up the lightness on it. And things do get desaturated, and I don't think that's just because you turn down the saturation. But there's kind of this aspect of like it's foggier, you know, and I think it's a combination of those two. I haven't personally done it because, you know, I haven't worked with atmospheric perspective in my own hands. But there is that aspect of it gets like it's a combination of those things. No,
you're perfectly right, and you actually nailed it when you said it gets foggier, because that's exactly the point of atmospheric perspective. That's why it's called atmospheric. That's why it's called atmospheric perspective, is because atmosphere is getting in the way of what you are seeing. Yeah. So that atmosphere and that air, and that bending of light and what's the word? Diffusion, I believe is the word. Diffusion of light as it moves through the atmosphere is what causes colors to recede and be how we say lighter and desaturated and stuff like that, because there's physical like air particles in the way that light's hitting and diffusing and diffracting from.
It's just so it's just, you know, air isn't perfectly clear. It's very slightly off, you know, and so what it does is, you know, you can only notice it in huge, vast expanses like we would see in these kind of pieces where you look at them far away and then it gets slightly foggier because it's just everything building up and kind of doing stuff like that. Oh, God, I just had another example of that. Oh, yes. For example, fun fact, mirrors are not perfect reflections. They're actually very slightly green. And you will only notice it if you go in one of those infinite mirrors, that as it goes farther and farther away, it'll get more and more green because it's building up over time again. And it's not the exact same concept, but it's a similar thing. It just kind of builds up over time. So you only see it for farther, like really, really far away stuff.
Today I learned I have to go stand in an infinite mirror.
It depends on the quality of the mirror. The worse quality of the mirror, the greener it'll be.
I think it depends on the material that's backing the mirror and the lighting, and
Oh, well, good, because all of my mirrors are made with diamonds.
Yeah, I don't think mirrors are something that people necessarily have a whole lot of experimentation on.
Bernd.
I'm sure if you got a really, really fancy mirror.
Bernd, you mean you're not already surrounded by infinite mirrors? So you can see yourself.
Oh, God. It's like alternate universes are surrounding me.
You've been really on his case recently. My goodness.
Just kidding with him.
Did he do something to you?
No.
Well, first off, I'm not surrounded by mirrors. I'm just surrounded by representations of myself in pony form. So it's like they're mirrors into another more wonderful,
into another reality.
Universe. Exactly.
I know I was just talking about stuff, but I did want to bring something else up. If you guys don't mind.
Is it about?
I want to talk about how cute the ponies are.
I want to talk about atmospheric perspective a little bit more.
Okay, why don't you do that first, and then I'll talk a little bit about stuff.
Okay. I just wanted to briefly touch on the fact that because this is set in the clouds, it kind of gives it a perfect opportunity to use a lot of atmospheric perspective. You have certain scenarios or certain scenes where you would kind of expect a lot of atmospheric perspective, this being one of them. If you have like a very wet environment, like a rainforest or something like that, or like mountains like in the morning where there's dew that can evaporate and stuff, you would kind of expect it. And also like with waterfall scenes. And so in this piece, since clouds are basically water, it kind of makes sense that you would have this big atmospheric perspective kind of towards the back of the piece and through that cylinder of clouds, which still looks amazing.
Well, it's funny. It's funny that you mentioned clouds, because the thing that I was going to bring up was the fact that I really like the way that Aaron JVL seems to kind of he does clouds just so well, and it seems to keep coming up in like a lot of his recent pieces. Now, recently he actually has been away from doing art for the most part, but
Aaron JVL, no.
if you look at like his gallery over like the last half of a year for his recent pieces, he just keeps making clouds, and they're freaking awesome.
Mm-hmm.
And we've talked about his clouds before on the show, but just, you know, there's the aspect of for artistically, but then they've got these like swoopy things, and they're kind of billowy, and he does a great job.
Also, I've noticed in a lot of pieces in his gallery, he really likes blue and orange.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like with that, did we? I don't know. I think we featured the derpy one, like
Yep.
with the clouds. Like that was in a card episode, right? It was like blue and orange.
Yeah, it was in clouds.
Then he made another one. He's like right on mommy's back. Oh, it's blue and orange clouds.
Yeah.
And then he did a canyon like cloud study where he was like studying another concept art by like a professional artist on DeviantArt. And it's like, oh look, it's blue and orange.
Literally 90% of his pieces in like the last little bit have been blue and orange. The dude loves it.
It's all pretty.
Otherwise known as
He loves it.
orange.
I'm a big fan of blue orange.
Yeah.
You are a big fan of orange.
Just wanted to quickly touch on, like in the last piece, Aaron JVL has a few of these little splotches of different colors that kind of stand out. Not necessarily as much as the last piece, because they're kind of subdued a little bit. They're a little bit more desaturated. But like the rainbows, for instance, there's a little bit of lighting that goes through the cavernous clouds and stuff, and then obviously you have Rainbow Dash and Fluttershy, which who looks so cute. So
They're so well painted. It's done in Aaron JVL's little pony style. It's kind of iconic.
Aaron JVL, we love you.
Yeah, he's on some like wasn't he on like some of the very few first episodes that we did?
Yeah.
Fire. And,
Yeah.
He's done quite a few that we featured in earlier episodes.
Yeah, like even before our show existed, we all knew of Aaron JVL.
Just a quick thought. Was Cloudsdale always portrayed as having the rainbow waterfalls, like always, or was it that just since that one episode?
No, it's always.
It was always, yeah.
People,
Yeah.
they've shown shots of it, and it's had rainbow waterfall.
Okay, cool.
Yeah,
I
when
wasn't sure.
the shots they've shown, they've kind of been like falling off the edges and like the sides and stuff,
Okay.
It's not as much as that
And-
episode, but
and kind of this receded view that we're seeing it right now. So.
Yeah. It's been referred to a couple of times. So, all right. So we're going to move on to our last piece, which is called Ponycraft Cloudsdale by Zatav, or however you pronounce the name. So sorry if I'm mispronouncing it, but it's Xatiav.
Zatav.
So, this piece in particular has an interesting backstory to it. And I want to talk a little bit about that because I enjoy sometimes looking into the history of why art pieces are made.
Alright.
So, it's called Ponycraft Cloudsdale, and apparently it was for a project that Zatiev and a bunch of other people were working on. That was going to be a game that they were going to make, some sort of RPG, RTS hybrid, kind of fun stuff like that. And hey, I don't know. I haven't kept track of this. I don't know if it came out or not. The game making scene is full of very ambitious people and slightly less finished projects. So I don't know what happened there, but for a piece of concept art, it's surprising. The concept art from gaming is not something that's taken very lightly. It's very serious business, and it can create some of the best art pieces out there. People who go into games are very, very creative people, and that does not stop with the game's artists. So I just wanted that's the backstory of this one. It was made for a game. Whether or not that game exists on this day, I will be Googling while you guys talk. But yeah, there you go.
I think I saw on Reddit actually a few days ago, kind of a time lapse of some concept art for a game, or a particular game level. I can't remember what game it was for, but I mean, there is so much that goes into that kind of thing, and it's not just for games; it's for a lot of things: TV, movies, games, etc., etc. But like, you really have to be a talented artist to be able to work on something like that, and
yeah,
some phenomenal stuff.
In the gaming industry, and this isn't consistent across all studios, but in the gaming industry, basically, as an artist, you don't walk into a concept art position unless you are like known for doing that, right? Like as you don't walk out of university or college and get a concept art. Concept art is kind of like it's not like it's something that everything wants to do, but it's a sought after position. It's something that's competed for, and for good reason, because concept art is the basis for what a game can look like in the end, and it gives it gives mood, it gives style, it gives a lot of different things.
So speaking of mood and style, this piece is a lot darker than all of the other pieces that we featured. So it's got kind of a more foreboding, or I don't know if I want to say sad or morose, but it's definitely a more foreboding feeling to it.
It has a much more serious tone.
Yeah, that's probably a better term.
It looks like it's gonna rain.
No, I get those feelings too.
Yeah.
So,
but it's
kind of those more depressing or even melancholy tones. Melancholy is a big word that people like to use when describing art or like feeling, because it's more of a state of being than anything.
Yeah.
It's like a fruit dog.
I am a melon.
Melancholy.
I am very melancholy.
I completely agree with that, because you notice all what we would know to be rainbows, like the things that are dripping down, aren't rainbows. It is streaks of blue, but there are 2 rainbows in there, but you can only just make them out really, really faintly, because the artist Zatav has done that specifically to make it look like it's, or to sort of take away a lot of its happy, a lot of its upbeat, bright sort of atmosphere.
Yeah.
In our last 3 pieces, they've been a very, very bright blue. Blues have been like very dominating in all of the scenes, but in this piece, blue's actually very receded. There's actually not a lot of it. It's just in the clouds in like the center of the piece, and then all the colors surrounding it are like reds, oranges, greens, a lot of browns,
a lot of yellows.
some more muted like violets and grays towards the bottom of the piece.
Yeah, and I think the whole like desaturation and muting of colors is what gives it that mood, that feeling. Because like if you have a piece that's meant to be happy, it's more bright usually, and obviously for a good art piece, you're gonna have kind of a shift in values and a shift in colors and stuff like that. But the tone of the piece is gonna be very bright. But in this piece, it's very dark, very desaturated. So it kind of
there's.
Gone.
Well, I was gonna say there's an insane amount of colors used in this scene, this concept art, because it is a concept sketch. I'm sure there was a lot of brushes involved to make this really quickly, because a lot of concept art is made kind of in a more quick fashion, and it looks like there's a lot of like grass brushes and techniques used to make this scene. So Canterlot and how it's not Canterlot, Cloudsdale, and how it's depicted looks very really, how do I describe it? Really painted, but in kind of a quick fashion. But it creates a really cool feeling too, because there's so many colors used, so many different like colors of brushes overlapping other brushes, that it creates this really cool, interesting feeling, with all those different colors that kind of aren't blue. So I don't know. I really like this piece for the tone that it's set and all the colors used.
Yeah.
If I may, I have known you for almost 2 years now, so I know that what you mean when you talk about stuff like that. I can catch the meaning in it. But some people just heard that and heard the fact that you said concept art is generally done quicker, and I would just caution people to say, when he says that, I don't think he says that to mean the same thing that you might be thinking it. And I don't
think I mean?
I don't necessarily agree that concept art is generally done faster than other art. I don't think on average concept art is done faster than any other form of art.
Well, see, I think it is in its because that's kind of the point of a lot of concept artists. Like concept artists, as part of their trade, have to work in a quick, efficient manner. Like I'm talking like John Azeko kind of manner, where it's what the stuff you create looks really, really good and looks finalized, but you have to create it in an extremely quick fashion. The way in which you work and the way in which you create your work or paint your work, it is done with how to describe that? It is physically done with great speed. Like how you have to work is done quick. Like there's a really cool videos if you're actually interested in becoming a concept artist. You should actually go watch. It was actually linked to me by I Am Not. And it's Feng Zhu's like online school or digital school of becoming a concept artist. Like it's a school specifically for becoming a concept artist in the gamer industry or whatever industry you want to do concept art for, movies, whatever. And one of the things he stresses is that how you create your art, like concept art, has to be done quickly, because when you have a client who needs work by like X amount of deadline, you have to be able to meet that deadline. And if you can't, like if you take too long to create art, you're not going to be a very good concept artist. So that's what I mean by when it's made quicker. Like it is physically, if you are a concept artist, you are very good at producing art in a very quick amount of time. Like that being said, this obviously probably took like several hours, but I mean, the artist didn't put in like an oil painter takes like 3 months to make an oil painting. You know what I mean? That's what I mean by quick, like speed versus efficiency. Like this, maybe quick is the wrong way to put it, but it is done quickly, but it's done efficiently. All concept art is made with a lot of like stress and importance put on doing it as efficient as possible. Does that make sense?
And 90% of those points I have no issue with. I'm just saying that on average, in terms of a commercial artist, that it's not quicker. I think that being quick and being efficient about that is something that's present in all commercial art. You know, when you have, like you said, when you have a client, you have to be fast, you have to be efficient, you know, and I don't personally believe that in terms of commercial art that concept artists are the exception to the rule. I believe something like an oil painting, especially these days with the type of jobs artists are getting, I believe that the shorter, take your time, whatever comes out is less common in any kind of industry in terms of artist jobs. It's semantics. We're both saying the same thing, and that is that it is done quickly, and efficiently is a good word for that, because quickly sometimes has negative connotations, but we are agreeing on that.
Yeah. Well, I think because concept art is not necessarily the end result. For instance, like in a game, concept art is kind of the beginning, where the concept art, obviously it sets the tone, it introduces characters possibly, it introduces scenery and stuff like that, but it's not really a finalized thing that ends up in the game necessarily. Like concept art could be more refined and then turned into the actual setting for the game. But 9 times out of 10, the concept art as presented at the beginning is not really going to end up in the final product. So I kind of get where Bernd is coming from, that it might be slightly quicker than other pieces, because if you're an oil painter, the painting is the end product. But if you're commissioned to do concept art for a game, it's not the end product. I mean, obviously, there's certain things that do need to be stressed in the concept art, like the mood, like the setting, like stuff like that, because that does set the tone for the game as it progresses, but the art piece itself is not the final product.
I also know that... Go ahead.
No, because I want to finish it up, so take...
Oh. I was also going to say, I also know that there is a lot of concept art that is, like, specific emphasis is put on the speed in which you make it, so being quick. And there's a lot of, like, strategies and... what's the term? Strategies and techniques for creating art or sketches or concept sketches that are very, very quick, and like quick ways of doing it or knocking something out using like brushes or other techniques to create like normally what it's done in is environmental sketches, like environment sketches like this. So when I'm looking at this, I'm comparing it to other environment sketches that I know are strictly made in a fashion that is very, very quick. I don't know if this artist specifically used those techniques that I'm like talking about or thinking about, because there's a lot of colors used in this piece. So like maybe it's probably stepping away from the what I know in my head. But I do know that there are a lot of techniques a lot of concept artists specifically use to knock out environmental sketches to get all of these ideas to their client in as quickly as physically possible. So
again, these are all points I agree with.
Yeah.
I was just arguing that I believe that I was arguing that I believe the majority of artists I believe in a different majority than you believe.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I believe in the majority of people who work like that, people who have to get stuff to clients. When we think of advertising, when we think of gaming, when we think of anything that takes art stuff, I believe that there is on average more of those people in the world than perhaps oil painters or people who have that ability to take more time on it.
Fair enough.
That's all.
You believe that the majority is what again?
The majority are people who have clients who are required to work efficiently and quickly, much like concept artists.
Speaking of time, we're running short on it. So we should move on to the
I'm lost.
question and answers. Or
Any
the
questions
Kinos.
now?
Yeah.
We're gonna do all three, or just...
Yeah, do all
Two.
three. Or do two.
Okay, so first question I've got here, they're mostly short, which is good. First question I've got here is, what is your favorite fruit and, I'm going to say, or vegetable? Sent in by CU.
Now, is a tomato a fruit or a vegetable?
Oh, for God's sake.
It's a fruit, so you can make it a smoothie.
It's true. Oh, God.
I like peaches. When I was a kid, I had a lot of peaches during the summer, so I guess I got used to it. They're my favorite fruit.
Did you move out to the country?
Nope.
Go down to Georgia.
No, just got them where I was.
Favorite fruit is apricots. Favorite vegetable, probably carrots or celery.
I think my favorite fruit would probably be blackberries.
It's a berry, it's not a fruit.
What's wrong with you?
And my favorite vegetable, which is also technically a fruit, would probably be red bell pepper. But it's technically a fruit since the seeds are on the inside.
And watermelon is a berry.
Yeah.
Berries are fruit.
Next.
I'm sorry, everyone. I'm kind of dying. I've had to stop recording a few times. Well, not recording. I've had to mute my microphone a few times because I've been coughing.
Bernd.
All right, favorite vegetable. I don't know. Don't care for vegetables too much. Favorite fruit, I'd have to say it'd probably be Howard.
Just saying your favorite vegetable is steak.
Anyway, fruit. I don't know. Star fruit because it's weird.
Star fruit's pretty good, actually.
Cool.
So is breadfruit.
Oranges, because orange juice. How about that?
Hey.
Damn. There you go.
Yeah.
I inject orange juice into my veins. Fact.
Okay, so second question I've got here is, who is your favorite Cutie Art Crusader, including Babs Seed, which is obvious because she is a Cutie Art Crusader, sent in by Eala Wolf.
No, I'm glad we're going to gloss right over this orange thing.
My favorite is Babs Seed.
Okay.
Used to be Scoodle. I mean, it's kind of hard to choose between them, but...
I like Sweetie Belle just because of the voice cracks, and she's adorable.
Voice cracks.
Anyone
go
else?
now?
Yeah.
Scootaloo. I like Scootaloo.
Yay, Scoodle.
Sweetie Belle.
Oh, poor Apple Bloom. I'm going to switch mine to Apple Bloom because she's also amazingly adorable.
Don't do that.
Or just because you feel bad for her, you're allowed to not like her.
Don't conform. You can't change your answer. That's two for
I really
Sweetie
like
Belle.
Michelle Creeber.
Yeah.
Like, Michelle
Yeah.
Creeber's top notch.
Yeah.
But...
And she's Southern, and she's Applejack's sister. So yeah, I'm gonna change my answer. It was really a tie between the two of them, but since she's underrepresented, I'm gonna go with Apple Bloom.
Why were you born
Apple
in America? You're totally a Canadian.
What?
So kind.
It's because you say sorry a lot.
I drink my water at room temperature. I use the metric
What?
system.
What? Wait.
What?
Since when did it become a thing that Canadians drink water at room temperature?
No, I suppose it's a European thing. I don't know. I get weird looks at work when I like go to the water cooler and I put warm water or hot water in before I put cool water in.
Yeah, see, that is strange.
Okay.
You're not even American.
Don't try
Get
to
out of my
pin this.
country.
Don't try to pin this on European or Canadian. You're just weird.
Go back to Canada with all the other weirdos.
That's just the fact there. That's just the fact there, Flutter Guy. It's not. That's not a.
But
You're like, I'm so European. No, you're just strange.
No, but the water that comes out of the pipes at work through the water cooler is very cold, and I'm not really a fan of like super cold
That's
water.
not room temperature.
It's not room temperature, but it's closer to room temperature.
This guy trying to pawn off room temperature.
It actually is somewhat common in European areas to serve water in room temperature, especially in Germany, because they usually serve you water in a bottle, which has usually been either sitting in a basement or just been sitting out in like the normal like room or kitchen. And you just pour like seltzer water is usually what they'll serve you, so bubbly water. That is room temperature, and you pour that into a glass. And if you put ice in your water, they'll look at you like you're a weirdo and you should go back to America.
Yeah.
Well, and also, seltzer water is different entirely from water itself.
But you can get
But that's where that connotation comes from, like room temperature water,
but you can
Because you can also have non-bubbly water in bottles.
Yeah, that's like when I was over in France or in Germany or Austria, you would get
traveler.
you would get I would get water, still water in bottles on the table that was just like probably sitting in the cellar. So, yep. Yeah.
Yeah, I forget you traveled a lot.
Yeah.
Work.
All right,
Yeah.
so next question. I don't know how you got there from discussing Cutie Art Crusaders, but next question is: you are asked to make a painting and have to choose one of 3 ways to do it: oil, acrylic, or watercolor. What do you choose and why?
Third question. I wasn't expecting that.
I
Where did this
know.
come from? You're what?
there's 3
You're
questions
asking a
there,
painting
you
and then choose one. I didn't even. You're asked to make a painting and you have to choose 3 ways to do it: oil,
Okay,
acrylic,
well,
watercolor.
then ignore the third question.
No, it's fine.
Okay. Well, seeing as okay.
Ooh. I don't want to do the ending. I'm scared now.
There's 3 questions there, so I assume you're going to do 3 questions. Normally, if we're only
I
going to go
know.
2, Max gets rid of one of them.
We can do the third
Do we-
question. It's
third
fine.
Well, do we have time to do a third question?
We can do a third.
Do we want to do a third question? I like the
I like the
question.
question.
wanna
I
do
wouldn't
it?
mind doing the third question.
Do you want to do a third question? Because we can
just
do a third question if you want.
All right, as long as we got time, Mr. Time Master.
Okay, third question. Jesus.
Let's do it.
Okay, well, I'm going to read it again.
Yeah.
All right, go ahead.
Okay,
man.
so third question. You are asked to make a painting and have to choose one of 3 ways to do it: oil, acrylic, or watercolor. What do you choose and why? Sent in by Ramslack.
I'm gonna choose acrylic, just because I feel that it's a lot easier to control.
You would pick the easy medium.
Yeah, it's easier to control acrylic than both watercolor and oil, because it dries quicker than oil and it doesn't run as much as watercolor. And yeah, that's my reasoning. I'm sticking to it.
I'm going to go next. I would pick watercolor because I really, really, really like the way that watercolor looks as opposed to the other 2. I prefer it over the other 2. That's like me personally. I've had a little teeny tiny bit of experience with watercolor, so I know how hard it is, and to make something that's really good out of watercolor takes a lot of skill. And that is why I would pick watercolor, because I prefer it, and it means you are very skillful to do it.
All right, bravo. I like the answer.
Mm.
I guess I'm gonna go with oil. I'm gonna be like the art history nerd, art nerd, whatever, hipster. Because I really like oil and oil paintings. They're awesome. Acrylic's nice because it's super, super quick. But it's also a pain because whenever you're trying to mix colors or get fancy colors, like if you don't already have it in a bloody tube or in like a container, like good luck mixing your own bloody colors because it's gonna dry in 5 minutes and then you're not gonna have that stupid color anymore.
Yeah.
So it's like mixing and whatever in acrylic it's butts. But in oil, like you can have like your paint sitting there and mix it and then just like go leave and like wait for the weekend and come back next Monday and it's still there and you can use it.
Yeah.
Which is also a blessing and a curse. But whatever. I like oil. I also like how oil paintings look over the other two as well. So.
Acrylic is easy. I don't art.
What do you think looks the coolest though?
Honestly, acrylic too. So.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah. See, if we were going by what looks the coolest, I'd probably say watercolor or oil. But...
All right, let's not start this. We've got the third question in.
What are some examples of like artists who'd make in these mediums that we feature?
No, I know
No,
you're doing
just
this on
like,
purpose.
we don't have
I'm
time.
stopping
Acrylic, we
this
have
right
Sophie.
now.
I'm not done yet. Acrylic, we have Sophie Cobra, and then watercolor, we've actually had some artists on the show.
Yep.
So, Jai and others.
But
There you go. That was it.
Yeah. Oil, we've got Cosmic Unicorn.
Yeah, I said that.
All right. Well,
Sweet.
we're going to
Okay.
move on to the plugs.
Plugs!
Yeah, go for it.
Yep. Okay.
Good.
So we
Do it.
have a DeviantArt page, which is deviantart.com/Cutie Art Crusaders. We also have a Facebook, which is Cutie Art Crusaders on Facebook. We have Twitter, which is @CutieArtCrusade, and an email address, which is cutieartcrusaders@gmail.com. I can do all that in one breath now.
Yay!
Yeah, that's about it. Go to each one of those places and shoot us an email, like us, friend us, follow us.
We
Watch
have
us.
a theme,
Yes, theme
which
for next week.
is right here.
That one.
Look at it. Yep.
This
You can
time,
also click it. Just click on
time
the
it's
link.
not just going to be. It's not clickable, for God's sakes.
Lick it.
This time,
Lick the book.
it's not going to be just me picking the theme. In fact, I'm going to go make dinner. So you guys
Yeah.
can pick the next week's theme.
Yay!
So there you go. All right. Well, that is everything for this week. Hope you guys enjoyed this one on Cloudsdale. Yes, it was very close to our Clouds episode, but shh. You tried picking 84 themes.
It was Cloud City. Yeah, it's different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's clouds in it, but
Next week's theme is condensation.
evaporation.
No, that's that's
Next
the week
week's
after.
theme is really, really hot things.
So precipitation next week, or
Snow.
Can we do shades and tints for the next episode?
oh,
Ooh,
did we?
ooh, can we do shades and
After the
tints?
episode, Bernd, wrapping up. All right. Well, thank you guys for watching. Whether or not you're on the live stream or on YouTube, we love you all the same.
Love you.
My name is Rainbow Plasma.
What is Bird?
I'm Flutterguy317.
I'm Atmos Spark.
And we'll see you guys for the Spoilercast or for next week's podcast.
Spoilercast. Yay.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Let's all say bye.
Hello and welcome to the 12th Spoilercast for Season 4 done by the Cutie Art Crusaders. Today we are going to be spoilercasting Season 4, Episode 13, Simple Ways. But first, my name is Flutterguy317, and today I am joined by Rainbow Plasma,
Howdy.
Bernd01,
Hello.
and Atmospark.
Hey, y'all.
Yeah, so this episode was very interesting. Basically, it featured one of the few times we actually see a romantic interest in MLP.
Yeah, and an overly romantic one at that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was very much dramatized.
Yes.
I was happy with the fact that when they finally decided to do a romantic episode, they went over the top with it.
Mm-hmm.
I liked that. I didn't want to see just like your standard, like, I don't know, boy problem thing. It was like way over the top.
Well,
So,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Should I do this entire episode in a bit of an accent, or
A
should
southern
I?
accent.
Please don't.
No.
Oh, now I want to do it more because Brent said I shouldn't.
Just because it'll make Burn mad.
But yeah. Okay, so I was thinking a little bit about how like a lot of kids shows have worked in romance before into the whole environment, and you know, I think that there is when it comes to like relationships are one of like the most complex problems that everybody has, you know, in their lives. It's something that is kind of like consistent throughout the human population. And there's different like stages to it, and I think there are only certain stages that are
kind of like the less complicated, or like you can simplify them down for kids, because like when you think about it, that first, you know, when you first start being romantically involved with someone in like that first like 6 months, that's a super complicated time for you and everyone around you, and it can be a pain in the butt sometimes, not always, but it can be. So it's this complicated time. And so I was thinking about it, and I realized that if you're gonna put this kind of romance into a show, you got to do it in kind of one of two periods. Either you work with something like The Wedding, where there's already like a heavily established relationship, you know, people getting married, parents who are married, or just, you know, people who have been together for a long time now. So that's pretty solid. Or this whole conceptual stage, you know, like the whole aspect of crushes or going after someone or whatever. And so it was interesting to think about, because like when you think about it and you think back to like old kids shows, that's usually the two categories that relationships kind of fall into. And it's not to say that they can't do other stuff, it's just so much harder to do it the right way. Whereas, you know, it's a lot easier to do like silly, you know, crushy stuff, or like, you know, weddings pretty standard.
Yeah. Well, because like, I mean, the crushy stuff, obviously, like you said, it can be done in a really fun kind of way, and in an over-the-top kind of way. Especially you see in this episode, Rarity like just going completely bonkers. First over the Trenderhoof, or whatever his name was. Yeah, and then kind of over the fact that like he likes Applejack, and then at the end it's like she kind of learns her lesson. But it's just that the fact that like that kind of premise can, I guess, lead to some pretty funny moments, and some over-the-top moments that we saw.
Yeah, I mean, you know, when you think about the previous stuff that they've shown on the show as well, it's always been that like one or the other two. So like, you know, you've got Spike's crush, and you've got, you know, different things here or there, but it's always been like conceptual or completely like already established, like I said with the wedding. But yeah, I mean, they handle it really well, and it's the reason why I don't believe that we'll ever see like a blooming relationship in the show, because it's not it's not something you can really. That's not for kids. That's where we see teen shows, right? Where you're starting getting the complications of relationships, and it's not all, you know, roses and sunflowers and whatever, you know, and but like, it's, you know, we have to realize that it's a kids show, so no matter how hard shippers ship, at the end of the day, it's all just going to be goofy, skirting around the point kind of stuff, and I'm personally more okay with that.
Hey man, shippers gotta ship.
Yeah.
Speaking of shipping, there was plenty of opportunity in this episode for shipper shippings.
UPS X FedEx OTP.
Okay, so let me really quick. So it starts with letter C, and then it goes A N A D A, and that's perhaps why I don't get your references.
Oh, how about DHL?
Yes, list more American companies. Go on. No,
No, DHL is German.
Well, I don't know. It's not Canadian.
Canadians are so multicultural.
Why would you're like, well, it's not American, but it's German. Oh, I wasn't aware we were occupied by Germany.
Wow.
This is news to me.
So anyhow, going away from the shipping, this is the second time this season that Rarity has completely freaked out, and it is still fantastic. Tabitha St. Germain, who voices Rarity, does an amazing job at kind of pushing her voice to the limits, and I think this is the episode in which she kind of blew out her voice.
Yeah, there's something about that. I mean, like, we don't really look at spoilers before, but apparently there was some sort of tweet or something that was done by Tabitha, I think, where she said she blew out her voice in this episode, and I'm not surprised. I'm not sure what you guys thought of the Rarity twang, but it was interesting.
Oh, God, it was painful.
Yeah, so cringeworthy.
It was really funny because it was like super stereotypical, and it was great. Like, Tabitha always does a super awesome job with just the crazy voices, like Rarity's crazy voices, overreactions, like bawling, and then with that super stereotypical twang. Like, it was really good just listening to the voices. Like, It wasn't my kind of episode, but the acting in it was really enjoyable. Just listening to all the things that Tabitha would do.
This is the second episode where a voice actor's blowing out their voice. Andrew Libman did it in the one of the Pinkie Pie episodes too. Sorry, in the Flutter Hulk episode.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
She blew out her voice in that one.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sure it's not an uncommon thing for voice actors if they're trying to push their limits, you know?
Yeah, probably not.
Well, that's gotta be tricky because as a voice actor, like your voice is your kind of your talent. Like it's what you use to live, to make money and stuff.
I suppose, but I mean
so
that's
you have
directly
to...
correlated, right? When you know the
Yeah.
Olympics are going on right now, and when you think about that, like all the athletes, you know, the most commonly used muscles are going to be the ones that are going to be hurt the most common, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Well, yeah, but it's very similar to athletics, where like if you get hurt, you know, then it's, you know, you might be out for a couple of weeks or whatever.
Yeah.
So I'm sure that voice actors have to kind of protect their voice and
there's nothing you can really do about it either. You know, there's certain like, you know, massages you can have for muscles and medical procedures for that. And while of course there's ways to take care of your vocal cords, it's not quite as researched, I guess. But it definitely is a very similar experience. I've blown up my voice a couple times, and it's just kind of, you just kind of sit and wait around and hope it comes back.
Mhm.
Yeah. I've lost
Yeah.
my voice a few times. It's not fun.
No. So there were a few points in this episode that Rarity kind of, or that Tabitha kind of made these like really funny noises. The first is when they're at the train station, waiting for Trenderhoof, and she like dives behind Twilight, and Twilight's like, "Oh, you should go talk to him," and she's like, "I can't do it."
Yeah, that entire scene was adorable, which I wasn't expecting out of Rarity. Usually, I mean, she does like dramatization really well, but it was just like suddenly really like shy and adorable, which is not necessary. Usually, when I think of Rarity like being embarrassed about something, she's even kind of over the top about that. But this was more this was very real.
Yeah. Yeah, because like when you think about it, she's one of the more charismatic ponies. I mean, obviously Rainbow Dash is very charismatic, and I guess Applejack as well. But Rarity's probably right up there. And she's had experience dealing with like high class ponies and stuff. But you know, as soon as you get a crush on some pony, then it all goes out the window.
Apparently. Poor
I like
Spike.
how Twilight was telling her to, you know, calm down and relax and just take it easy and go talk to him. And the only thing I could think of the whole scene was Flash Sentry.
Oh, don't mention that. You're gonna rile up some people who care way too much.
And the chat just exploded.
Hey, he was in that one pony episode like 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, that's true.
Woo. Yeah, Twilight seems to be, there seems to be like a real maturing process with her this season.
Mhm.
You know, maybe she's definitely like stepped into more of a mentor role ever since the end of season 3, which is a really interesting. I would kind of like to. Have we had an episode where she's gone a little bit nuts so far?
The one with Cadence?
This season. Yeah, a
But
little
she was
bit.
still kind of in control. She was annoyed, but she was still
Yeah.
kind of. I
haven't-
want to see. I kind of want to see, like, we've seen like almost everyone go nuts so far, and I kind of want to
Yeah.
just see her, like, you know, break her cool at least once this season. You know, like have
Her
an
key
episode centered
episode,
around
man.
her where she's
Her-
kind of acting weird.
Her key episode. That's what it's gonna be.
Yeah. When Ponyville explodes.
Yeah. No, I mean we have seen crazy Twilight in the past.
I know, and that's what's so
I would
good
love
about it.
I know. I would love to have her back. But I think it's interesting because I did see someone say, I think on Reddit, that Twilight is becoming more and more like Celestia, where she's kind of more of a mentor figure. But
She doesn't solve anyone's problems for them anymore.
yeah. But I mean, this whole season has kind of been done in a bit of a different fashion. And like we were saying earlier on, like with the episodes that kind of started the season, they're trying to involve more of the main six, like have episodes with all of the main six in them. And so I think trying to do that, you kind of have to give all of the quote unquote background main six roles. And so Twilight is naturally like kind of the leader / mentor / guide or whatever.
Yeah, that's true. There is this aspect. I felt in the first 3 seasons, and I had no issue with this, but I had this feeling in the first 3 seasons that, no matter what happened, we have the main 6 and they all have their stories and stuff, but no matter what happened, Twilight was always the main character of the story. Even if just by a little bit. And I feel like in season 4, they're kind of being like, all right, well, we've had her moment. Let's really flesh out like the people around her so that it's not just, in previous seasons, it might have been that feeling of like, oh, look, it's the people around Twilight. Whereas now they're like, no, we want to flesh out these people so they really are the main 6, These really are 6 main characters, and one of them happens to be Twilight. And so they're kind of pulling her back from being super involved and stuff. They're not taking her back unnecessarily. Like, Daring Don't episode, she was really into the books, and she was a part of that episode, and she's always kind of here and there. But I get the feeling less so this season that she is the main character, and we're just seeing side stories.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's the best new background pony.
And Applejack has been getting a heck of screen time.
Yeah. And same with Rarity too. More recently,
Fluttershy has been delegated to.
Also, who's been getting a lot of screen time? Derby.
Yeah,
it's true.
Constantly.
Yeah.
Like in this episode, underappreciated.
I thought we weren't allowed to say the D word.
Muffin. Her name is Muffin.
Muffin.
To muffins. To
all of the muffins.
It's Muffin.jpg is her name.
Yeah.
So, kind of going back to the whole plot of this episode, it's kind of interesting to see the whole dynamic between Rarity, Applejack, and Trenderhoof, or Trend, as they ended up calling him. Just because it's not really a love triangle, quote unquote.
It's a line.
More of a, yeah. There's an image that Atmospark brought up that was on Reddit, and it's like basically a love
line
path or
squiggle.
It's secretly a love triangle. We just the show doesn't want to say anything about it.
Do apples love Spike then?
Nah, that'd be a love circle.
No, Spike's just cut out of there because it needs to have 3 points. Spike doesn't count. He's not even
can we cut out Spike and Trenderhoof and just have apples love Rarity, and Rarity love Applejack, and Applejack love apples? Can that be the love triangle?
There we go. I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
Can we cut everything out and just have apples? Can anybody go for an apple right now? Because they look delicious in this episode.
They did look delicious.
My goodness. They had some interesting slow-mo shots in this one.
Also, that freeze frame of like Applejack's like style face.
The duck face.
Just Zoolander came like straight to my mind. Just like Magna.
Yes.
It's like, oh god, there it is.
It was so.
God, it was ridiculous.
Yeah. I love how over the top Rarity's impersonation of I guess Southern style.
Southern focus.
Yeah, is. And then I love how like Applejack kind of turned that right around back at Rarity. And
I like the aspect that she totally couldn't do it as well as Rarity could do like her accent. Although I kept pointing it out to you that when Rarity turned on the Southern accent, she would say something and then Applejack would say something right back. Applejack still had a more Southern accent.
Yeah.
Like she out-Southerns a mock Southern accent.
Yeah.
And it's great.
Well, it's interesting. I kind of mentioned this to you that because of Rarity's like normal accent, kind of layering the Southern on top of it gives her more of like an English, like a Cockney English accent.
It wasn't American country. It was like English country.
Yeah, which is kind of interesting and very cringy at times.
Well, maybe it could have also been, just some influences on the voice actor herself. Maybe she's heard more country stuff come with that kind of accent.
Yeah.
So it's interesting. It's interesting to see.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I really like the interaction between Applejack and Rarity in this episode. They kind of harkened back to the days when they used to fight a lot about their differences, and it kind of came out bubbling underneath the surface when they were both going back and forth there near the end. But yeah, it was fun seeing them go back and forth, and it was a much more mature, well, for the most part, it was a much more mature argument back and forth between them.
Yeah.
Less of what you're doing is wrong, and more like, we both do good things, but on our own.
Yeah. Yeah.
I love being covered in mud.
That line.
I like Spike's little shot to the camera. About halfway through, when Rarity said, "Do you know what it's like to love someone who doesn't love you back?"
Yeah.
And then Spike does that little eyebrow raise to the audience.
Like,
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. There's been a lot of that kind of there was the Pinkie Pie like fourth wall stuff where she like basically tapped the screen. With all of her stuff that she has done everything but physically address. Well, she's probably physically addressed the audience as well. But they've done a little bit more of kind of those subtle kind of put-ins. Like you'll have characters like just look at the camera a little bit, being like, "That just happened." It's very, very subtle, but that was one of them where it's just like,
Yeah.
Really?
It's like, really?
Really?
Yeah, that whole scene with Spike and Rarity in the middle of the episode was really well done, and it's like you really feel bad for Spike.
do we though?
Yeah.
No.
I mean, I do.
Well, maybe.
Wow.
Well,
I do.
mine was a
I care
joke.
more for Spike than I do for Angel Bunny.
Yeah. I don't know. I think like as this season has progressed, like, or as the whole show has progressed, like the interactions between characters have become more realistic, I guess, or more like fleshed out, like you were saying. Just because it seems like the way that the characters react to each other seems more natural. And it could also have something to do with the fact that like the animation style is a bit more fluid and whatnot.
Yeah, I don't know if that's like experience. I'm sure like part of it's experience on the writing staff, but like I don't know if that's just that or whether or not this has just been a fourth season. So
Yeah.
like we've already gone through a lot of stuff, so there's a natural progression there. So I don't know what it is, but there seems, I don't know, like I've heard people say like, oh, I like this season over the other one. It's always been like a slow roll, like a slow incline for me. Like it's getting, I always feel like it's getting better and better, and it's always moving towards better and better things. There's a couple of bumps
definitely
along the way, but for the most part, every single time I look forward, I always look up, like I expect the episodes to be better, and they seem to be trending in that way.
Yeah. Trend.
Oh, don't even start. Don't get me started on how bad the male characters on this show have been.
He wasn't terribly bad.
He was so bad.
He was crushing. He was like Rarity.
He was so bad.
He was a hipster.
He was so bad.
I liked him. I thought it was funny.
Of course,
Yeah. He's got
Give him a goatee and give him fancy hair, and it's like, bam, you have.
He's got a little bit of a goatee
Wait,
on.
Bernd, are
like-
you the child of Rarity and?
Whoa, wait a second.
Just blew my mind.
Ooh.
I thought it was funny, and Rainbow Plasma, you pointed this out to me when we watched it a second time, that he has a pocket with a comb in it.
Yeah.
It's so good.
It was funny. It was more
Yeah.
like stereotypical, like boy band-esque pony. I don't know. I thought it was good for the joke.
Yeah.
One
Definitely.
day there will be a solid, consistent male character besides Big Mac. One day.
Yeah.
Shining armor.
Shining armor, kind of,
Fair
but
enough.
he was under.
But like he's never around. He's not consistent.
He was in.
He's too busy doing Prince things.
That's true.
All right, that's cool. I want a consistent character. I think that's
I-
Spike is male.
I would love. Yeah,
Spike's a dragon.
But
Spike's a kid though.
we haven't seen Spike episode in a while.
That's true.
Maybe we'll see one.
It's true. We are due for a Spike episode.
Yeah. So anyhow, we are
Wait,
running.
it was the comic book episode. What are you guys talking about?
Oh yeah.
No, but that was really all of them though. Like he really got forgotten like halfway through that one.
Dude, no one forgets whatever the heck his character name was.
His point exactly. All right, so we are running short on time, so we do have to wrap this up. I hope you guys enjoyed this spoiler cast, and come back next week for our spoiler cast of season 4, episode 14, whatever that may be. We're not really sure because we avoid spoilers.
Darn right.
Yeah.
Does this make us hypocrites?
No. This is an already aired episode, so it's not hypocritical.
Fair enough.
Anyhow, also come back next week to watch Cutie Art Crusaders before the spoiler cast, because, we're kind of cool.
Nah, not at all. We're awful.
Yeah, not at all. All right, so
I like
without
me.
further ado, I will see you guys hopefully next week. My name is Flutterguy317.
I'm
Bernd.
Rainbow. What? Get out of my face! You step in line, son.
Rainbow, what indeed?
I'm Rainbow Plasma.
I'm Atlas Spark.
And we'll see you guys next week.
Bye.
Bye.
Love you all the same.